Okay, good. Sorry, guys. Okay. So as I said, our focus today are the four great river civilization, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and ancient China, along with prehistoric Europe and Near East. We'll see that the cradles of civilization are rivers like the Nile, Euphrates, Tigris, Indus, Huanghe, and also bodies of water, so Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, and Persian Gulf. We will cover this period. I know it's a lot. It's more than you can think of. I had to reduce a lot. So I will not talk about America. I will not talk about anything else. But as I told you before, the four great river civilization. We will cover from the Stone Age to almost 500 BC. This is a foundational sweep from architecture as survival to spirituality and the beginning of society. So we can say the four great cities. We will talk about Ur for the Sumer in the Mesopotamia, Thebes for Egypt, Mohenjo-daro for the Indus Valley, and also Anyang for the Shang Dynasty. We'll see that urbanization, material culture, monumentality, and also the emergence of a professional architecture, especially from the shift from communal building to state-directed construction. Let's start with prehistoric architecture. As you all know, Earth beginnings can be traced down back to 4.5 billion years. But human evolution only counts as a tiny speck of its history. The prehistoric period, or when there was human life before records, before the writing records documented that documented human activity, roughly dates from 2.5 million years ago to 1200 BC. The prehistoric age can be divided into three periods: Paleolithic or Old Stone Age, Mesolithic or Middle Stone Age, and Neolithic or New Stone Age. All these eras were marked by different new innovations that made human go from 0 to 100, we can say, but it was a very long period. And during this era, early humans shared the planet with now a number of extinct hominid relatives. You have to imagine that it was almost like a cultural pot, but there were like not all humans. There were still monkeys, there were still Neanderthals, there were still the Denisovians. All those people, all those human steps were still living together. So keep that in mind. So the Stone Age. Why prehistoric history structures hold limited architectural value? Because they're very simple. They're like, we can see that that's only stones put one on top of one another. They are very important. They are very archaeologically significant. These four are the four most ancient structure that you can find. These are the most important. As you can see, I put the European one because as we saw before, from Africa, they came, hominids came to Middle East and then Europe, and then they moved to Asia and then so on. So Paleolithic, ancient human in the Paleolithic period were also the first to leave behind art. So it can be very melodramatic, but since there was humanity, there was art. So personally, I think humans are supposed to be creating art. And also art can be very instinctual. So also remember that. So they use combination of minerals, oaks, burnt bone, charcoal, mixed into water, blood, animal fats, to hatch humans, animals, and signs. Art was the first communication, written communication, and it's also universal. They also carved small figurines from stones, clay, bones, and antlers. The antlers are the horns. The end of this period marked the end of the last ice age, which resulted in the extinction of many large mammals, like the mammoth, and the rising sea levels and climate change eventually caused man to migrate. Early hominids likely lived in open air, near food sources and water, choosing defensible and sheltered location near rivers, lakes, or streams, with nearby hills for refuge. Initially, their houses were very simple, like campsite, often in caves with few formal structure. It was very simple. Over time, shelters became more complex, including structures of wood, straw, rock, and occasionally even bone. During the Mesolithic, humans used small stone tools to polished, and sometimes they even crafted with points attached to antlers, bone or wood to to go hunting. But these tools also served to build structures. They often lived nomadically, so they moved around a lot, and agriculture was introduced this time to that which led to more permanent settlements. Finally, the Neolithic period, humans switched from hunter-gatherer, that they have to move for this type of society, to agriculture and food production. So they could be more stable. They domesticated animals and cultivated cereals, grains. They used axes and also tilled the land and started to settle in plains. So no more hills, more plains. Advancements were made not only in tools, but also farming, home construction, and art, including pottery, sewing, and weaving. Now I want to talk about two main campsite sites they found about this period. Uh, Shirokisha in the Neolithic site of Cyprus. It's about 6 kilometers from the sea. It's surrounded by a thick stone wall, and the village had round stone houses clustered together, so families lived together. They had some flat or dome-shaped roof, benches, and evidence of upper floors. Homes were open with courtyards. The community was about 300 to 600 people that farmed cereals and herded sheep and goats. It was abandoned during around 6000 BC and represents the earliest known culture. The other one is in Turkey. I think I will pronounce it not correctly, but it should be like Catalhuk, something like that. It was a very large Neolithic proto-city. We are talking about a proto-city. It was about in the south of Anatolia, and it was about 7,000 to 6,000 BC. It's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now it's located in modern day Turkey, and it includes a mound rising 20 meters above the plain. It was abandoned before Bronze Age. So let's talk about Bronze Age. It is more interesting. It was the historical period characterized by the use of bronze tools. And this is interesting. And the development of complex urban societies, so cities, as well as the adoption of writing in some areas. During the Bronze Age, metalworking advances were made, as bronze, a copper and tin alloy, was discovered. Now used for weapons and tools, the harder metal replaced the stone, and this one was a sparking innovation, as well as the wheel. This period also brought advances in architecture and art. Consider the potter's wheel and textiles. This is a lot. This is a whole new world that opened up. So imagine discovering this. It's not a discovery, it's more about an advancement, but still. Home dwellings became from round houses, the one in Cyprus, from circular stone wall with a turf roof, with a fireplace inside, and more cities began to form. So more families together became a bigger city. In fact, organized government, law and warfare, as well as the beginning of religion, also came into play during the Bronze Age. Perhaps the most famous one are the ancient Egypts that built the pyramids, but that's not the only thing they built. We have to take into account the earliest written text that could be traced to Sumers. You can see in the photos in the top left. This is one of the first attempted of writing. I also thought it was very interesting to include for you different movies you can see, but you cannot. Okay, you cannot see from the presentation like this, but yeah, no, you can see. Anyway, I picked a few documentaries and an animated movie for you to watch if you want to focus more on this period. I think it's very important to have something more material to see. For each civilization, I choose something you can see. So let's talk now about Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia refers to the geographical region between present Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and Iran. The terms come from the Greek, that means between the rivers, especially the Tigris and the Euphrates. These two rivers, with their many tributes, form a major river in Western Asia. You can see here. Often regarded as one of the cradles of civilization, the first one. Mesopotamia development is bonded to the rivers. All these civilizations are bonded to the rivers. because their fertile banks supported early agriculture and made this time permanent settlement possible. The river not only provided water, but for irrigation, so agriculture, but also could shape finally architecture, like bricks or something else we'll see later. We can see better here the different empires, different civilizations that came one after one another. And these one are the two most important cities that were famous in all the ancient world. With little rainfall and a very hot, dry climate. I don't know if you ever went there. I didn't, but I went in the airport nearby there, and it was crazy hot and dry, and frequent dust storms created a very harsh environment. There was not a lot of stone, there was not timber, there was not any tree, and it was mineral poor soiled. But all of these characteristics influenced a very unique architectural style. We can see here. Good. In the north part, there is a very mountain-like area, and the stone was used in a very large way. The earth was rich in minerals only as iron, copper, and tin. Meanwhile, the south part is very sandy and it doesn't absorb any water. So buildings were designed inwardly. The high exterior wall were for airflow and protection. The alleys were very narrow, and the residential areas reduced the heat from the extreme weather. These are the four most important type of buildings. As you can imagine, they were related to the societal beliefs of that time. So temples were central to Mesopotamian architecture, and they were reflecting society's strong beliefs for religion. The main monuments of Sumerian cities played the key roles. The temples were mainly of two types: the ground temple, which you can see in the first image, and the high temples, which are called ziggurats. The ziggurats mean, ziggurats mean to be high, and it symbolized a link between earth and heaven, serving like almost a divine dwellings. They were stepped mud brick structure, which formed like a geometric form and had stone or glazed brick. The most famous one is the Great Ziggurat of Ur. We will see it later. Palaces, the third type, emerged around 4000 BC, and it became like the rise of secular authority. The peak was reached during the Assyrian period, and they were aligned to cosmological directions. Finally, residential houses, were centered around the private courtyard and were essential for climate control and seclusion, as we said before. Now let's talk about Sumerians. Around 4300 BC, the transition from prehistory to the civilization came with Sumerians. They were the first one, remember them. Some cities, Sumerian cities, were Ur, Uruk, Kish, Eridu. The society developed a very strong social, economic, and intellectual foundation. and also agriculture that produced barley, dates, and sesame seeds. They built extensive canals and a drainage system and invented the wheel. They invented the wheel. As you can see from the image, you can see the first wheel was full and it was made out of stone. And also, they didn't invent only the wheel, but one of their most significant innovation was the cuneiform writing. Yes, so you can see here the territory. This is Ur, the city, and the cuneiform writing and the wheel. This one is a reconstruction of a later wheel, which is made out of wood, but the first one was made out of stone. So they were the first to create temples, palaces, and ziggurats inside the city walls. So now we're talking about walls. What could walls tell? That there were wars and they could be attacked, not only by animals, but other civilization. Mud was the primary building material that was formed into sun-dried bricks. And also remember that land was owned by priests that managed it on behalf of gods. I don't know about you guys, but this seems like nowadays almost like a complot. But you have to remember that we are thousands and thousands of years ago, and this was normality. So ziggurats rose as stepped temples. We will see these similar geometric forms later on. There's the pyramids, and also there is a very strange structure in this China, the ancient China civilization. Anyway, temples were religious centers and also a symbol of power and military organization. So this is the most important one. This is the ziggurat of Ur, and they were the first one to intentionally design a public building. So this one was not restricted to somebody. It was open to the public, we can say. And also it was enclosed within the city walls. They also developed, as you can see here, a new technique, which were the mud bricks. Maybe nowadays you cannot think that this is a big innovation, but for them it was, because before they used stones and mud only for attach stone to stone. So now it's a very new innovation. Okay, let's talk about Babylons. Under Hammurabi, Mesopotamia was unified into an old Babylon empire, centered in Babylon. As we saw before, the city is in Middle East. This era saw major advancement, a math system, a lunar calendar, and the 360-degree circle. So you can imagine we start from rocks in the very prehistory. Then with the Sumerians, we start with the wheel. And then now we are talking now basic math, but we're talking math with a 360-degree circle. The literature thrived with the Epic of Gilgamesh. This one is very interesting, but we don't have any time to talk about it. So the Hammurabi Code, Hammurabi was a very important king. You can find a lot of tales about him because we can now decipher their writings thanks to the Hammurabi Code. This code established one of the earliest legal systems separating religion and civil authority. So this is very important. We can see here. So the Hammurabi Code is the one on the bottom right. Meanwhile, on its left, there is the 360 degree circle, and then up of this, there is also basic math. But I also wanted to introduce the jewelry that women were wearing. I think this is fantastic. It's very astonishing. You can see the details. You can see the craft behind of this. I'm actually very interested in that one. So probably I will try to do a studio class with about this one, about Hammurabi and Babylon's jewelry. It's very interesting. But for the architectural scenario, we're talking about bricks. But from mud bricks that were very basic, we now are talking with glazed bricks and hanging gardens and the legendary urban splendor. But as we don't know, it was destroyed. It was almost much lost to time. Babylon was shaped like a quadrangle, pierced by the Euphrates River, surrounded by double walls with defensive towers that rose above them. We can see that the hanging gardens were splendor. The beauty of them resonate inside all over the world, the known world then, and it's amazing even now. I don't know if you know about the Milan. In Milan, there is a building that became very famous because it's called Hanging Garden, and it's inspired by this. We can also see a similarity between Hanging Gardens of Babylon and all the, we can say, almost biomorphic buildings in Singapore. If you think about it, that the Tree of Life building in Singapore can be traced back to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Let's now talk about Assyrians. After the king Hammurabi death, Babylon declined, and the Assyrian, another population, rose to power, uniting Mesopotamia into a very big first empire with a very powerful army. You have to remember that Sumerians were the first civilization that invented the wheel. Then there were the Babylons, which were more like intellects, like people. And then there was the Assyrians, which are very war oriented. They founded cities like Assur, Nivev, Nimrud, and Khorsabat. As you can even hear, the name of the cities have a different sound. The discovery of iron transformed daily life and warfare. So, the war scenario. Iron weapons were made for the Assyrian military, and that made them dominant. Assyrian art is characterized by the huge quantities of murals, sculptures, and winged bulls. The winged bulls is the image you can see on the top right. It's full of that one. You can find those pieces of those winged bulls all over in European museums. You can find it on the British museums in Berlin, Even in Rome, you can find it. Yes. The winged bulls appear to guard the gates of the cities. Meanwhile, Assyrian architecture buildings were very high, and that's relating to the using of stone because it could be found all over in the region. Because as you can see from the Assyrian Empire, they took over Babylon's, but they also had some north part that was rich in stone. This is one of the cities. This one is the Khorsabad, and it was considered the walled capital that was organized around palaces and gates with an imperial scale and intimidation. This one. The famous building is the Assur Temple, the Double Temple. You can see here the winged bulls. This was the ancient city gate. Now, I didn't want them to include the Persians inside because, as you can see, it's very long, but we have to. We have to just look inside the temple here. It's a wonder. So the Persian Empire began around 530 BC under Cyprus the Great. So we're talking about the father of or the grandpa of Alexander the Great, the Greek one. And this one, Cyrus, conquered land from the Indus River to the Danube, excluding Greece. He founded Persepolis, a symbol of their power. Persian architecture lacked a distinct native style. It was more about a quotation architecture due to its synesthesis of elements from different cultures that they conquered: the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Babylonians. Anyway, the Palace of Persepolis was built by, I'm sorry, this is very hard, Xerxes, and completed by Artaxerxes. Featured a grand terraces with monumental stairways and guarded, even here, by winged bulls. The West Asian architecture used mainly brick due to limited stone and wood. Buildings often resemble tents and nomadic influences. But as you can see here, there's not much left. But if you trace back with imagination what it could have been, it's amazing. Here there are others movies I can recommend to you. You
The history of medicine is as old and as rich as the 4,000 years.
Now, let's start with the Indus Valley. After this Indus Valley, we will take a small break, about 5 minutes, and I will tell you later the precise time. So, the Indus Valley civilization was a Bronze Age civilization that was located in the northeast part of India. It was developed in the fertile lands surrounded by highlands, deserts, and oceans. If you think about this, it's very similar to Egypt and Peru. Most cities were along rivers, but other were about on the coastlines and even islands. Settlements were located at crossroads and fertile regions and covering about 650,000 square kilometers. So twice Mesopotamia or Egypt. It was huge. The major civilization was the Harappa one that came from the north. And then, as you can see in the upper Indus Valley, there is a Harappa city. And then they came down to Pakistan and founded Mohenjo-daro. And then they came down again. These people traded with Sumers and sent merchant ships to the island in the Persian Gulf. The main items of export included potteries, inlays, and wood. The Sumerian merchants referred to the Indus valleys as Meluha. They also traded with Mesopotamia and Egypt. Harappan civilization was the first to turn cotton into yarn. Remember this, and weaving yarn into cloth. Cotton was developed around 2000 BC, and people exported it, as I said, in different other zones to the west. The Indus Valley featured advanced urban planning with large brick-built cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Remember Mohenjo-daro, we will talk about it later. And there's also a movie I recommend you to watch. It's an Indian movie, and they casted a not so Indian character. I think he could seems Italian. It's very funny. And he also fight against the crocodile. So it's very funny, but it shows how Mohenjo-daro could have been. So I recommend you to watch that. I watched it. It was amazing. So back to Mohenjo-daro. Each of these cities housed about 35,000 people. Cities had a grid like patterned streets, standardized bricks, defensive walls, and public infrastructures like wells, drainage systems, granaries, and large ritual baths. Each city had two sections: the raised, fortified acropolis, where the dead bodies were left, with key buildings like halls, granaries, workshop, and in Mohenjo-daro, the Great Bath, and the lower residential area with houses with courtyards, multiple stories, multiple floors, private wells, drains, and bathrooms. This is the Great Bath, the earliest known public water tank in the world. This one also is very important. If you ever will design something about water, remember this one. It was about 12 meters by 7, and it was 2.4 meter deep. It was not very big, but it was the first one. It was built with new materials like gypsum plaster and bitumen. It has staircase, ledges, and was likely used for ritual. You can see this one inside the movie I recommended you. Exactly. But let's. Okay. Okay, I think we can take a small break. Now it's 12 and 22. We can see each other at 12:27. Is that okay? Good. See you later. Hi guys, we can restart. Guys, are you there? Can I start again? Yes, good. Okay, now let's talk about Egypt. Okay, ancient Egypt. So, ancient Egypt was shaped by the Nile River, which flowed north due to the higher terrain in the south. This gave rise to the Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north, called Delta. The Nile's annual floods deposited fertile silt, making agriculture possible in an otherwise arid region. The fertile land along the river was called Black Land or Kemet, while the surrounding deserts were the Red Land, providing a natural protection and isolation. Egypt was originally divided into upper and lower, as we said. Menes unified the two of these reigns and established the capital at Memphis. Egyptian history is divided into three main periods. The Old Kingdom, known for the pyramid buildings and the mastabas. We will talk about this later. The Middle Kingdom, with the temple at Karnak, and the New Kingdom, where Thebes became the capital. We can see here. So, Egypt had limestone in the north, sandstone in the central region, and red granite in the south. The gigantic scale of Egyptian architecture was mainly possible due to the Egyptian method of quarrying, transporting, and raising enormous blocks of stone to position. This is still a very challenged hypothesis. We can find a lot of ideas on how they moved blocks, but we will see more of this later. Sun-dried bricks made from the Nile mud and chopped straw were used for palaces and houses. Egyptian architecture was adapted to this desert climate. Buildings has thick, windowless walls to block heat and light, entered through doors and roof slits. So the windows were very small. Sometimes they didn't even have that. The roofs were flat and made of heavy stone slabs, which reflected the absence of rainfalls. The structures were very solid and monumental. The temples and tombs stood on the west bank of the Nile. Meanwhile, the residential era was on the east. It was reflecting religious beliefs tied to the setting of the sun and the afterlife. Ancient Egyptian architecture featured massive, thick-walled temples with few openings and flat stone roofs supported by columns. Key features included the pylon gates and open courtyards and hypostyle halls with papyrus-shaped columns and inner sanctuary housing for the deity's statue. So, Egyptian religion featured many gods, like Ammon, the sun god, Osiris, the god of death and resurrection, Hathor, the goddess of love, and Anubis, the god of mummification. Their power was expressed through grand temples dedicated to these deities. Beliefs in the life and life after the death inspired the construction of enduring monuments like the pyramids and tombs, seen as eternal homes for the souls, reflecting the quest for immortality beyond the temporary life on earth. I put in this slide these four temples. I went to Egypt last year and I saw all of these temples. You can imagine how big they are, but it is not as big as you think of it. It's enormous, it's gigantic, it's very incredible. If you can go, you have to go. It's amazing. Inside, they were not stripped of anything. They had all this etching, all these small sculptures. All the walls were painted and sculpted. It's amazing. These are the columns that I was talking about before. As you can see, still these are all decorated with stories of the gods. But if you see in the top part, in the abacus and the capital, you can see different types, and these are inspired by the papyrus and lotus. So we can now see a very similarity between this one and biomorphic design. So let's talk about mastabas. They were the ancient tombs of the Old Kingdom. They were flat-roofed, rectangular structures with sloping sides. The term mastabas means bench of mud in Arabic. Mummies, embalmed bodies with wrapped line all over them, were buried inside. Tombs often contain statues of Ka. Ka was the spiritual double believed to live on after the death and needed a place to reside. Ka is like the soul you have. And each time you go to sleep and dream, your Ka wakes up and goes around the world to see it. You can even see the gods for the Egyptian beliefs with your Ka. Meanwhile, let's start with the pyramids. The pyramids, especially the one at Giza, were built during the Old Kingdom as tombs for the pharaohs and elites. You have to think that not all pharaohs, which are the king of Egypt, had the pyramids. They became famous as the symbol of ancient Egypt, but not it's very they were built in a very small period. So ancient Egypt is not just pyramids. But anyway, you can see the grandness of them. They have a square base with four triangular sides meeting at a point. Originally, they were made with white marbles out of them, and they had the point of gold. So you could see them for miles, even in the desert. They used vertical columns supporting horizontal beams for the doorways and passages. The internal of the pyramids is very complex, and even for this argument, they have made a lot of films and movies. It's very grand, and a curiosity is that all the slaves who were used to build the pyramids, once they've done all the work, so they've done the secret chamber, the pharaoh chamber, and so on. All of them, even the architect, were killed. All of them were killed because nobody could know where the king's chamber was. So all of them were killed. Even the architect. Yeah, yeah. This is the inside of the tomb, and often all the tombs, all the pyramids had secret weapons inside of them. So if you were a pyramid trespasser, you could have died inside because there were arrows and many other traps that could have killed you. But anyway, in the millennia after, people went inside and made a mess. They stole everything they could, mm, but there are foundings. Even nowadays, I saw one article 2 days ago that historians found another chamber which was still intact. So it's still amazing. Still, I try to give you here some movies, but I don't know why during the presentation you cannot see them. Okay, so let's now talk about the last one, the ancient China civilization. The ancient China civilization was along the Yellow River basin, often called the China's Sorrow, that was fertile but flood prone, so it was very likely to flood it. It shaped early architecture in significant ways. As you can imagine, stone was scarce and timber was plentiful. So instead of monumental stone, the Chinese built with what they had, so earth and wood. Okay. So we now turn to ancient China dynasty. We will talk about the Shang dynasty, one of the earliest Chinese dynasty with written records. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, where stone and mud bricks dominated, as I said before, China developed a very unique architectural vocabulary, rooted in timber, earth, and celestial alignment. So, you don't have to imagine China as it is today. You have to imagine this China. We will talk about the Shang civilization. Okay. So Chinese cities were often orthogonal, so aligned with the cardinal direction, almost like the Roman one. It wasn't just aesthetic, it reflected a very deep cosmological belief system. So the emperor was seen as the son of heaven and the center of the cosmos. So cities, obviously, were laid out in grids, often walled with central axis. So space wasn't just functional, it was a moral, even sacred one that reinforced the cosmic order. In the Shang period, we can see the emergence of religious altars, often built with rammed earth and timber. We will talk about this technique later, where ancestor worship and oracle-born divination took place. It's a very different context respect to the other one we talked about, but still it has a very similar few key points, like the king, the religion, the believing, and also how the materials shaped the cities. So this idea of continuity between the living and the dead, the earthly and the divine, it became a keystone of Chinese architectural philosophy. In this Shang dynasty, city walls use the Hangtu method. We will talk about this later. And remember this, the Shang dynasty were the precursors of the Great Wall. Walls were not only functional, but also symbolic, as the city was the embodiment of the emperor. So the city itself was sacred. So we will talk about two techniques, the rammed earth called Hangtu and the timber frames called, doyong. So rammed earth or Hangtu was a method where layers of damped soil, clay, and gravel were packed tightly between wooden forms. This technique didn't require any kilns, so it was not cooked, or any bricks. It created a very thick, insulated walls, which was resistant to heat and invaders. A lot of buildings were made out of Hangtu. You can see even if you search Shang Dynasty, all of the buildings were made like this. So, as I said before, they were symbolic. Not only they were resistant to invaders and heat, but they were protecting and rooted in the earth. Now, let's talk about wood. Chinese architecture developed the Dogong system, interlocking wooden brackets that connected beams and columns without any nails or glue. You can see this same system in Japan architecture, and you can even see a part of it in the Alpine scenarios here in Europe, where timber is very abundant. You just need to use the flexibility of the wood and then use a very geometric, physics-based logic to put one on top of one another, and they don't need anything. The walls were made non-load bearing, so they didn't have any mass on them. Only the roof had the wood. The roof had the strength to support everything, and the origin of the Dogon system begins here. This is not from the Shang dynasty, it's a little bit later, but it didn't change much. As you can see in the bottom, there is a quotation about the philosophy of that time. And you can imagine the buildings. This is the building of the emperor, which was like this. I personally like it a lot. There are still some movies here you can see later. Good. So we have now finished the theory part. Congratulations on staying awake. I have still a few things to say to you. So I understand that this lecture is full of concepts and images and maybe new informations. You probably won't remember all, but that's not the point. I need you to be very mind agile and re-elaborate yourself the topic. From now on, in all of your yes? No? Okay. From now on, in all of your university path, you will be asked to have opinions. I was asked too, but to do so, first, you need to have enough knowledge. So, for the history part, I divided into 4 pillars to how to analyze things. Keep it in mind. Doing so will make the difference between you and the other students. I'm not asking you to do this for this class. This is just like a tip I want to give you guys. I use this method and it works. I remember a lot of things, and I can dissect the topics. This works for me, so I don't know if it can works for you. But if you have to study something, divide it. Always divide it. So you can see this, but you can see later. You have the presentation. Another thing, from now on, for all the classes, for this reason, so for the reason that you cannot remember all, nobody remembers all, for all the lectures, I want you guys to complete a step-by-step glossary with important terms and key concepts. This will help you a lot, not just for the history exam, but also for your presentations that you will be asked to present anytime, any day, and as well as the specific terms are something that characterize university architecture students. There is no deadline. I strongly recommend you to do it class to class. It's very easy that way. You have to rewatch the presentation and search for key concept and important terms. So it's like you have to study, but it's easier. And I put some examples there. As I said, there is no deadline. This is for you yourself, but it's very useful. So the Excel sheet, it's linked below, and you can find it in the Google folder you have. For the next class, this is mandatory. Each student will choose from from topic 1 or topic 2. Topic 1 is curiosity and insights. So it's like I'm talking about more Europe-centric design and architecture, and curiosity and insights are about that. A focus on that part. And the second part is about global perspectives. So all those civilization I cannot talk about. For me, it's very how can I say, it's very refreshing. Those are all arguments that I'm very interested about myself. So it should be for you something to be curious about. You can choose between this. It would be better if anyone picked a different topic, but you can choose whatever you like. You can find the Google Doc linked below and take it as your personal exploration of the topic to cover something unknown and make it yours. Make it yours. Always make it yours. Again, this is the last one. Since this is the first class I had with you, I think of it as a sort of test for me to understand how to structure the contents. So I need you guys to be honest about what you found complicated so I can tackle those problems for the next presentations. All constructive opinions and suggestions are appreciated a lot. You can find the link here, but you can find it on the Google folder. So thank you a lot, and I'll see you next time on Thursday. Not anymore on Wednesday, but on Thursday, 17, and we will talk about Greece, pre-Roman Italy, and Rome. Thank you so much. I will ask you, since it's already 1 for me 1 p.m. So I think for you guys is 5:30 or 6 p.m. I guess. I would love to hear your presentation about the architect or buildings that you want. You made the assignment. on. So you're not, it's not mandatory. So if you don't think or feel comfortable with presenting today, you don't have to. But I would love to hear that. So if you want, I have time. If you want to stay like 10 more minutes, uh, I'm here I'm here for you. So each time you present, I will take notes and I will give you a feedback. As I said before, I will let you know the feedback face to face after you present, and I will write it down on the Excel, still in the Google folder. And I want you guys to grade each other. Only that way you can become better. So next time, the next presentation, you know what to work on. So who wants to begin? Okay, good. Um, okay. Can you present yourself? I'm not sure if you have the authorization. Yes, very good. You have 5 minutes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it clearly.
So if you guys are ready, I would like to start. So, firstly, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Huang. So this is about the presentations about my personal architect, the one I admire so much. So I'm a kind of person who love environment, nature, and kinds of environmental observations. I prove it by doing some activities like yesteryear program. And I like the quote by Mills Vanderoe, less is more, and form follows function. So these are my examples. The first picture is about the NUS compass from Singapore. It is a drone view because I show it here because the university, the NUS is really eco-friendly, and it was like a plenty of green space. The second picture on the right, on the top of the right corner is a crown hall from the Illinois Institute of Chicago. The designer is a very the architect is a very I'm gonna say famous architect, Mills Vanderoe, a professor at the Illinois like institution. And the left bottom is a glass house from Philip Johnson. It's his own house, and the lower right picture is falling water by the one of the famous architect Frank Lloyd, right? Yeah, sorry, I forgot his name. So my personal architect, I most like admire is Oscar Niemeyer. So he is a Brazilian modern architect, and he won a Pritzker Prize, one of the most celebrated prize in the architecture form. And Oscar Niemeyer was born on December 15, 1907 at Rio de Janeiro. And he died or passed away at 2012, December 5. If Oscar Niemeyer don't attend the National Schools of Fine Arts in Rio, he wouldn't become an architect that we know today. And he married at the age of 21. So there is always one question in my mind that how do we achieve beauty in architecture, the weightless form, and the identity of a country? So we all can find those questions in Oscar Niemeyer's buildings and in his architecture. So this is his like first project, a solo project, I have to say, because he has earlier project, but he involved it as a university student. This building is a Ministry of Health and Education that he and his teacher, oh, Lucio Costa, and his master, a very famous architect, Le Corbusier. And this is a Brazilian pavilion from New York, and this buildings attracts most of the international attractions to him. And this is the his most celebrated or famous buildings, Church of Saint Francisco at Assisi. And these three buildings, we can see there's are the same trademark that he used to draw these buildings, and that is that how can I say a geometric shape. But he mostly got criticized by these buildings, these projects, and this is Nehemiah's house, his own residence. This house is really famous for a very eco-friendly and the modern architecture styles and the use of the column. But he got criticized and criticized it from like most of the international architecture, the news reporters and the like such kinds of people. From the lower left photo, you can see that that is a buildings of California, Sao Paulo. So there's a V-shaped pilotis that he used. So because of that, he was pretty criticized pretty badly. But he don't accept it. But it actually is the matter because that V-shaped pilotis don't need in these buildings. But the Niemeyer have got a chance to prove it that he can use well of the V-shaped pilotis in the Interbao exhibition. And he and his teacher, the Alicio Costa, designed a Brasilia, which he have to plant his own country. That is this is how can I say landscapes and the city maps of Brasilia. And the final his most of the lake carrier. These are his most walks of the his lake carrier. So these are what I mean by weightless, what I mean by beauty, what I mean by identity. Look at all those buildings. They all feels like weightless, even though they are not. And they all achieve beauty in its own architecture. Look at the President Palace. It's such a beauty to such a kinds of buildings in their country. And the National Congress as well, and the cathedrals of Brasilia and the Contemporary Art Museum, and the International Culture Center. And most of the Niemeyer's buildings are pretty fit with my idea. Form follow functions, less is more. So that's why the Oscar Niemeyer became one of my ideal architects of all time. And most people don't know well about Oscar Niemeyer till now, but I believe he is one of the best modern architecture in his time. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. You stayed a little bit over 5 minutes, but it's okay. I liked a lot how you were passionate, and that's the spirit you have to have. I liked the last slide you presented. Maybe if I have to give you more constructive feedback, I would say, but it's okay, it's perfect because it's the first one, so it's okay. But for the next presentation, maybe choose one or maybe two, no more, buildings, so you can focus more on the maybe progression, because you put a lot of buildings, and I don't know if you put all of them, but you put a lot, and you can see the progression, but not clearly, in the sense that maybe if you put two together, at the beginning of his career, and one at the end of his career, you can see more clearly. But it was well presented, and the slides were very clean. So that's good. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks for the feedback. I will do it next time.
Who wants to go? Come on, don't be shy.
Oh well. Okay, so let me share my screen from my iPad because it is there a little problem in my iPad. Sorry. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Ah,
No problem. Take all the time you need.
yes. Ah, thank you. Is that my voice clear? Because my connection is bad today.
It's very good. I see it very clearly.
Okay. And hi everyone. Good evening in Myanmar right now. So I'm Sui. Today, I want to share an architect who's really changed like how I think about designs. And he's called Botranya. He's a Vietnamese architect. And I think he doesn't just build the spaces. Like I think he builds clam, like a thoughtful environment and also like a bamboo trees and the silence. So that's why I give the title of this presentations, Whispers of Bamboo, because you're gonna see that his work speaks softly, but deeply. So in this slide too, I provide the biography of Botrania, also the reason why I choose him. So Botrania, he grew up in like a rural part of Vietnam, where the nature was just part of everyday life. He later studied in Japan. He got an architecture major in the University of Tokyo. Maybe he got and he learned the simplicity of the structure from there. Also, the interesting fact about him is like he's really into Buddhism. He's really into meditations. In his office, all the team members, including him, have to meditate like 2 hours in a day because he really think that the clam he got from meditations helps him to design the clamness of their buildings. So I think as a student, I feel like his architecture like teaches us not just how to build, but also how to feel the building and how to feel the environment around it. Okay, in this slide, I will present just a few information of his design philosophy. Okay. So as you can see, he mainly used the cultural resources like a bamboo. What I love most is like how he works with bamboo. Like he used and he works with bamboo like not just as a material. He used it like a language. Like his buildings don't fight nature. They let it flow through it with air, like light and shade, and even in silence. He believes that his concept is like he think like cities should heal us, like not exhaust us. So that's the kind of powerful concept for him. So there are many key projects of him, but I choose my four favorite key projects. So one of my favorite project is like Botrania Architect's Office here. As you can see, it's situated in Ho Chi Minh, and it is built with bamboo, like stone, and then filled with plants. Everywhere is like a plant. Like just imagine like working there every day. Maybe you cannot see the bamboo there, but actually the interior part is really cool and minimalistic. And another one that I choose is like Kotom Indochine Cafe. It's built in 2013. You can see that like huge bamboos columns look like a lotus flower. As you know, Sophia, in my application form, I'm really into like a flower inspired design. That's why I choose this as my favorite one. So another two projects is like House for a Tree. He built in 2014. It's also in Ho Chi Minh City. As you can see that he put trees on the top of like concrete homes. It's like a small ad, but with a big idea. He wants to bring back the forest back to the city because Vietnam was for many years ago, Vietnam was like a forest country. But after the war, it got destroyed a lot, but he got a big idea. He want to bring back the forest country back. And another one is like FTB University. It's in Hanoi. So he designed it. So students are like surrounded by the greenery. It's like not just with the like concrete wall. So it is really thoughtful design for like a mental health too. As we all know that green environment helps her to provide like positive energy. Also, another slide is what I have learned from his work. So after researching about him, I realized that like materials matter when we construct or when we design. It's not just for the structure, it's also meaning. So he shows that like local resources like bamboo can be strong or also like a poetic in some time. Like he also remind me that like architecture doesn't have to be loud. It's meant like not to be creative, not to be too creative, not to be too innovative. But sometimes quiet spaces can be more powerful. So as you can see there, as you can see here, like these are the kind of spaces like I hope to create in the future. So this slide is for hit recognition. He wants like big works like World Architecture Festival. Inspire me even more is like he's really true to his root. He's one of the like underrated architect in Southeast Asia, because he designed with their building with care, not just for their fame. For the last one, this is my final reflection from this. So I think like Botrania like brings like bamboos to the cities, also like trees into rooftop and a piece into concrete. For me, I think he proved that architecture isn't just about building; it's also about healings. So his words remind me like why I choose this part and what kind of architect I hope to become in the future. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Yuri. Very good. I personally enjoyed it because I didn't know this architect, so thank you for letting me know him. I liked a lot the graphics. You had a very good choice of words and images. Maybe try speak less slow. Um, I know I have this problem too. And also I get very excited and passionate. So I'm telling you, but I'm also telling myself. So very good. Try talk less fast. But everything is very good. You stayed in time like Hong Kong. Um, Maybe, yeah, I think even the number of buildings were good. Maybe a little bit less if you want to make a more in-depth analysis. But for the first assignment, it was very good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvie. I appreciate your feedback.
Do you, the others, wants to go, or you don't feel comfortable? Don't be shy, seriously. It's the first day. Um, only the things that you present, it's good. Do it for yourself. The more you talk, the more you get familiar with the feeling. The more you exercise, the more you know your mistakes, and the more you can be better. But if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. It's the first class. We are already over time, so you're not required. But I'm here, and if you want to present, I'm happy to hear it.
Yes, may I?
Of course. Thank you.
Please wait, please.
No problem.
Sorry, because of the connection, it's not working.
No problem. If you need, I can present for you.
Yeah. Yeah, can you see my screen? Hello?
It's it's still loading, but maybe it's my problem. Can you guys? Okay, now I can see.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Today I will present about the exploring humanitarian architecture. So for me, I'm new to for this kind of things. So for me, I think myself that I connect into the environment friendly kind of architecture. So I searched about it and I found out one architect, not because of his architecture. Yeah, his architecture is great, but mostly because of his mindset. I'm drawn to him. So he is a Japanese architect and his name is Shigeru Band, a famous Japanese architect. So most of his work is located in Japan, Kobe, Rwanda, and New Zealand. So his work often respond to the major disaster, including the 1994 Rwanda refugee crisis and the 1995 earthquake in Kobe and the 2011 earthquake in New Zealand. So for in these times of crisis, his treasure provide emergency shelter and privacy to people who had lost their houses. For example, like in COVID, people lost their houses because of the tsunami and also earthquake. So they all have to live in a really large hall, like with no privacy. So he just built a temporary like structure like this, and after that he built three-story building like for temporary. So for him, he is really well known for using recycled and low-cost materials such as paper tubes, cardboard, wood, and even beer crepes. So his intention is like to reduce waste and make architecture more sustainable and accessible. And so his work include like emergency shelter, like paper lot house, and also uh three-story like temporary housings like multi-stories houses and also religious building like cardboard cathedral. His work is mainly focused on to be simple, comfortable, and created in his own way. And I saw a lot of his video. He mentioned that he avoid to follow the trend styles. He focused on the solving the real world problems and find the solutions. So he create his own architecture style by using the existing materials in the new and different ways. So his construction techniques are cost effective, fast, and environmentally friendly. His architectures often features with paper tubes, which is a signature element of his designs. So for some of his work, like a couple cathedral, they are symmetrical, when others are like adapted to the needs of the user. His floor plans are compact and efficient, especially in his disaster relief projects. And he often use like as you guys see, repetitions of paper tubes. Like for him is like a creating a calming effect in his design, and it is also rhythmic. So in his architecture, materials and structure itself like provide beauty, which is also serious and deeply intentional. So the main purposes of like his architecture is to help people in times of crisis, and his buildings are made to build quickly and easily, or often by the volunteers, and also to provide emergency shelters on for the displaced families, and uh, they offer the safety, privacy, and comfort, even in a temporary conditions. So there is also his work, but that I didn't include in this slide. Uh, so there's a lot of like chargers, museum, and even the art gallery. But whatever he did, he always focused on the what human needs, and he always focused on the thing, and he always believed that caring for people and the environment is important. And he always built with care and love. So his building are loved and praised by many people, and some even said that they want to live in there forever. So for his disaster release project, it is not that expensive or flashy, but it is like kind of like smart and meaningful and made to help peoples. And he believed that architecture can do more than just for look good, and it can also be to solve problems, heal and protect. So I'm also surprised when I found out that he did pay for his disaster release project with his own money, and it was really unexpected to see that something simple material like paper tube can be built into safe and strong shutters. So some of his style remind me a lot about his traditional Japanese architecture. So for him, he follow his own styles of architecture without being influenced by the trend. And his buildings are simple, and also it also have deep meanings. And why? And I also found out that there are some people who criticize and focus on about that his building is just for temporarily, but he mentioned that even a building made in a paper can be permanent as long as people love it. And also, even a concrete building can be temporary when it's made to make money. So for me, I think that he is like kind of like some kind of person who give his time and energy and creativity and also his idea to help people, and he doesn't care like about the status, and he just care about what human needs. So it is kind of like really beautiful mindset, and I inspired that a lot. So that's all for now. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. It was very good. The presentation, the visual components was very good. This is exactly what I meant by the organization of the slides. For me, I don't know if for you guys, but for me, it's very clear. You said that you aren't familiar with architecture or the art study field. I guess you are more from a scientific one, but this one is for this specific topic. So the presentation was very good in the sense that you were very precise and very organized. Uh, Go on this road. The presentation is very clear. The only thing is that you went over time. Maybe if I were you, I would give less technical information so you can have time for a more personal view that you saved for last. It's good, but when you are going to take the test, guys, they will require you to have a personal view. So as you did, you have to give an objective point of view. You have to present as you did, but you have to give a personal opinion. I know that I put the last slide only for the personal opinion, But as Yuri and Hong Kong did, you can feel that they have a very passionate about that architect. You are very clear about the information and the slides. This is very good. Maybe try on work on choosing the information, so reducing them to give more time about your personal liking, your personal opinion. But it's very good, very, very good.
Thank you so much.
If anyone doesn't want to present anymore, I think we're done. If Caroline or Grace still want to present, they can obviously. But if you feel okay without presenting, it's okay still. So I'm guessing you're okay. Still upload the assignment. For the one who presented, I already gave the feedback, the written feedback on the Excel file. You can find it on the Google folder, inside the assignment folder. Very good, guys, very good. The next class will be on the Thursday 17th. Remember to I will send you another email to remember, and for the Google form, so you will grade my presentation and tell me where I have to work on. So remember, we're growing together, so don't hesitate to tell me anything. I think this is it. Good evening, everybody. Good night to the one who has night, and good work to everyone. See you on Thursday. Bye bye.